Good morning, Cheshire Council Watchers. Welcome to our new channel. We've set up Council Watch Cheshire West and Chester to enable local councillors and local residents who feel that the Labour-run local administration who aren't doing enough of a good job to serve the people and to uphold democratic values and principles locally, have an outlet to be able to share their concerns and to report on the council's responses to those concerns and any breaches related to that in terms of local democracy. And part of the reason that we're doing this is because the local media themselves don't report on anything negative really to do or critical to do with the Labour administration. And conversely, they're more than happy to report really good news stories on behalf of the council. So they're acting as a mouthpiece of the local council leadership and not really acting on behalf of the local public or on behalf of a healthy local democracy. And we feel that that's wrong. So that's what this channel's for, and we're very happy for you to join us here. And we're going to be putting out content regularly as we can, and we hope that we'll get better and better at it, just to expose some of the things that are going on locally and to help local residents have more of a voice. So to that end, one of the first things that we're reporting on here on this channel is going to be what happened at local the full council meeting in the council chamber in Winsford last Thursday. So I brought a motion on the deficit of democratic values locally and gave a few examples and wanted to really open up the debate with that motion across the floor so that councillors from all different political flavours could give their own examples of where they feel that local democracy is broken down. Because obviously no leadership within the local council wants to ever present themselves as failing, and they're always going to try and discredit anybody that's challenging them, especially if that person's bringing strong evidence or compelling personal stories, or both in this case, to back up that complaint. They're not going to want that, and they're going to want to discredit it, and that's politics, that's the way it works. But when motions are being blocked and motions are continually being voted against in terms of debate isn't even being allowed within the chamber, and when that's happening to parents they have relatively very little power in relation to those leaders, and the parents are saying, this is our experience, this is what the evidence is telling us, this isn't a national issue, these are localised failings, we're underperforming within the national context, this is the impact it's having on us, these are the kinds of things that your officers have said to us and that you've said to us yourselves. And they're saying that to the council leadership. And the council leadership are saying, we disagree, that's wrong, we think we're doing a great job. And by the way, we're not going to even have a debate about it, we're not allowing a debate about it. But we do care, but we're not going to allow a debate about it. It just gives, it's awful, but it gives a perfect illustration of a pattern of rejection of any kind of criticism, and especially any kind of criticism that can be backed up by evidence and by compelling personal stories. So this is a council leadership that claims to really care about co-production, what they call co-production. They talk about that no end, about lived experience. And obviously this issue that was brought on Thursday by these parents, by myself, as an illustration of the breakdown of democracy locally, is linked strongly with poverty, and they claim to be a beacon of good practice in relation to poverty and to really care about the lived experience of those people that have less power within society and that are struggling. And many of these parents really are struggling, and there's a far higher incidence of special educational needs and disabilities in children within lower income areas as well. Not that these parents were necessarily within that boat themselves, the ones that came to speak, but this is a known fact. And yet the parents that are representing this group that took the time out of their evening to come and speak at council waited over 2 hours to hear the debate that related to the motion that they brought, that the speeches that they gave, the motion that I brought, and they were denied that opportunity, and yet told that it didn't have any bearing on whether they were valued or not as local residents, and whether the complaints that they were bringing were going to be taken seriously or not. The parents have seen nothing but inaction, and they've experienced nothing except for gaslighting and cheap words from the leadership locally. And then the newspaper that reports, they said that the journalists sit in on the full council meetings, what they've reported on, they haven't reported on. This was the main thing that went down at full council. If you watch some of the clips that we're going to post up on this channel, you'll see why this was such a big news story. It's the most important thing that's happened at full council since I've been a councillor, and I've been a councillor 5.5 years. The way that these parents were treated was appalling, and it spoke volumes about where we're at and where this leadership is at in terms of how they're running this local council. So, and the media ignored it. So we have to have our own channel. We have to have our own outlet. People need to be able to have a voice. It's really dangerous when public services ignore evidence and treat the public with contempt. It's really, really dangerous, because the thing that makes us a civilized society is our democracy, those values, those democratic values. And although we don't expect that to run perfectly, everybody knows that there's usually some level of wrongdoing and denial and obfuscation within any level of politics. When it's breaking down to this extent where the media aren't reporting it, the police appear to be backing up the councils. The response from councils to criticism is to tell people that they're too aggressive, that they need to reframe their words, that they haven't, that they can't solve things overnight, that it's not really a local issue, it's a national one, that they're being divisive, that they're responsible for staff resigning. Additionally, when people are pointing the finger at the leadership, and the leadership then take that and they point the finger, they redirect it and point it at officers and say, please don't be mean to our hardworking officers. That's deliberate, and it's really sneaky, it's really underhanded, and it's not a sign of strong leadership or any level of respect for any form of democracy whatsoever. And our civilization, any hope of justice or social justice or any of those things, it depends on us having a semblance of a democratic process and some democratic values that underpin that locally. So that's what the motion was about. I'll do another video which just focuses on what the motion says, maybe just read it out. I think it's a hard motion for anybody to kind of really strongly disagree with. I don't understand why they wouldn't want to debate it. They did subsequently debate a motion that had been brought by another independent councillor, Councillor Jill Watson, which was about ethics within local government. And because maybe that was presented in a slightly more benign way, they didn't feel so threatened by it. They allowed the debate to go ahead on that. And that actually gave us as councillors an opportunity to lambast the leadership for letting these parents down as badly as they have done. And the result of that is that a number of us are going to be reporting them to Ofsted, and we might look at see if we can get a more wide whole-scale inspection by government of the council and how it's being run, because I think quite a few of us have got quite a lot of evidence now that it's just not being run correctly. So that's what this channel's for. It's not just for looking at the local council, it's looking at all public services locally, and we'll probably have a little bit of government, and it's all going to be on the theme of the democratic process, the values that go alongside that, and how that's breaking down nationally and locally as well. But our main focus is going to be Cheshire West and Chester Council, which is QWAC. And we're hoping as well that we can encourage some of you to consider standing as local council candidates in the next local elections. And that involves, maybe as independents, and that involves getting off the blocks, not just sort of 6 months before that election takes place, but a build up towards that beforehand. So that's what we're trying to do. It's quite an ambitious thing that we're starting. We're doing it with no money, to cobble together skills between us, but if you feel that you have something you could offer in to help us, then please do get in touch. And over the course of time, we hope that we'll have a website and our social media channels set up, and we hope that we can grow this, and we hope that other areas will. I know there's also a couple of council watches set up in other areas of the country. I'm not sure how networked they are. I think they're quite fledgling and new, like this is as well, but I think it's a really positive thing, and I hope that lots of other areas will also do the same thing, because I think that this is the kind of grassroots, it's just one element of a grassroots fight back that is really, really badly needed within this country and within our local communities. People aren't being treated fairly by those that are in positions of power locally. It's very nepotistic. It's about who you know, in terms of who's got the resources to put into elections and making sure that you're promoted. And there's a strong sense locally that the leader of this local council in Cheshire West and Chester, who has been appointed as the chair of the Local Government Association, is also on track to stand and be shooed in by the fact that they have so many resources at their disposal into the regional mayor role when that opportunity arises. And that's been something that's been kind of unofficially known for a few years. And so it's very important that people that are heading for positions of even greater power and responsibility understand that those of us that have evidence that things aren't working well will find a way to present that, even if the local media don't want to report it. So we hope that you are behind us in what we're doing. It's not just going to be me talking, there'll be different people contributing to this channel, and we're excited about it. So may the force be with you, and see you next time. Thanks.